the last 30 months, about 10 global retail companies set up their GCCs in India. So in this episode of Xpheno's GCC Talent Podcast, we thought we should unravel the talent context of the retail companies who have GCCs in India. I'm sure you already know that amongst the top 10 retail companies in the world based on turnover, 6 of them already have a GCC in India. Then we look at the top 20, 3 more get added who have GCCs in India. We look at top 50, the number still is single digit amongst them. So there's a lot of headroom for growth for companies who can still come to India and set up. But let's look at the base of what has got set up. So we studied about 70 retail companies who have GCCs in India. And in them, we realized that there are about 90,000 professionals working as full-time employees. And how are they split city-wise? Clearly, in terms of the workforce, 38% of them work out of Bengaluru, Delhi NCR about 14%, and Mumbai about 12%. That's the top 3, and Hyderabad 10%. So fourth in terms of number of professionals working. However, when you look at the number of units, Bengaluru has still leading at 45%. Here the order changes a little bit, where Hyderabad comes next in terms of number of units. But as you remember, the number of workforce, Hyderabad comes forward because many of them have set up in Hyderabad recently. So they're still scaling up. The third in terms of number of units would be Delhi NCR, and Mumbai would be fourth. So that's in context of location and a workforce split. But when you go to the HQ, obviously US still leads. About 66% of these retail GCCs are from US, followed by UK 8% and Germany in that order at 7%. And what we wanted to see is there a diversity in terms of the workforce years of experience? In that, as you can imagine, the two thick layers which have the significant number of workers split is 30% in 5 to 10 years experience range and about 24% in the 10 to 15%. Because whenever a new GCC comes to India, they want experienced people to join them, and this experience range gives them a head start. But of course, there are 22% people working in the 1 to 5 years experience range. But if you want to set up a retail GCC, you want to first hire the leadership team. I think we have a good talent density, about close to 950 leaders with titles about directors, VPs, any of the CXO titles that is attached to them, senior directors, and AVPs in some cases. We have about 950 of them. However, the interesting part is out of these 70,000 people who are working, you have 8% of them, which is in the range of 20 years experience plus. Maybe most of them are individual contributing roles. So whether you want seniority in terms of experience or you want people who are already in leadership roles based on titles, there is a significant density for new retail companies coming to India. However, what is the growth in the last 12 months? The last 12 months, we've seen a growth of about 3% in these 70 retail companies who have GCCs in India. The churn is still real, 13% churn, which is by and large the average most of the GCCs have. But we also looked at what we call as bellwethers. Remember, when we did the GCC Talent Podcast related to ER&D as well as banking, we looked at what is the growth versus churn. If you don't remember, just sort of retraining banking bellwethers, for example, the growth was 14% and churn was about 10%. And ER&D, the 50 companies that we studied there, the churn was 10%, the growth was flat at about 1%. When it comes to retail GCCs, the growth is flat at 1% and the churn is 11%. So people are leaving, the moderate growth among the bellwethers. Bellwethers means in the retail context, we took companies which have 2,000 employees and above. And in this, we studied about 10 companies which employ close to 43,000 people. So in that sense, it is a significant number to study and make meanings out of. So I guess when you study 43,000 full-time employees and you look at growth is only 1% and churn is 11%, you know, it's reached a kind of a stable point as far as these bellwether retail GCCs are concerned. They are not growing like banking GCCs and they're staying as flat as ER&D is one way to look at from a comparison point of view. However, these greenfield GCCs which have come in, the 10 who have come in over the last, let's say, 30 months, like I mentioned, have recruited close to 2,000 FTEs. So that's not a very large scale up that they have done, right? So in summary, is there any eye-popping detail that you can take away from the data sets that we mentioned? Not many, but if you are, let's say, a retail GCC enthusiast or you are talking to new companies wanting to come to India in the retail sector, I think the three things that stand out is the city which has the highest density of talent is Bengaluru. Highest number of units are also in Bengaluru. The top three cities in terms of talent density, after, of course, Bengaluru and Mumbai and Delhi, the top three cities, right? The sector is steadily growing at 3% in spite of the churn at 13%. That means people are on the move as far as retail is concerned, right? So overall leadership density as well, 950 plus people with who are in leadership titles as we studied them, and at least about 8% of people in the 70,000 cohort are in 20 years experience and plus. So these are some of the very high level takeaways when it comes to the retail companies having GCCs in India. And I thank you once again for tuning into Xpheno's GCC Talent Podcast. Till we meet again, bye.